Before we kick off today, thanks to all of you who joined our Premier League Fantasy Football League. I think there's about 500 people in the league so far, which is pretty impressive considering I didn't start the league until an hour before the first game, which was a little bit stupid, I will admit. Good luck to everyone who's in it, except for the 102 people who are above me. Anyway, on to today's video. Premier League clubs are no longer able to sign players, but there is still a chance they could lose some players, with the transfer market still open across Europe, while Championship clubs can still conclude loan deals, which means every Premier League squad could be weaker by the end of August, or stronger, it depends how you look at it. A lot of players are still being linked with an exit, so let's take a look at one player from each Premier League club who could reportedly leave before the end of August. Arsenal, Joel Campbell. I mean, the poor bloke hasn't even got a squad number according to the club website. Even Carl Jenkinson got a shirt number 25 if you're interested in getting a Jenkinson shirt. But back to Campbell, who's actually number 35 according to this picture, so I don't know why it's not on the website. And his Arsenal career has just been loan move after loan move, and it appears Unai Emery doesn't have room for the Costa Rican either, naming the winger on a list of players who could still leave, which is fair enough considering the best form of his career came 4 years ago at the World Cup. Will Arsenal fans miss him? I wouldn't bank on it when they've got Super Alex Iwobi. Bournemouth, Tyrone Mings. The fullback was linked with a loan move away from Dean Court a few weeks ago, and there's no reason he can't still leave on loan, and no doubt there'll be some Championship clubs sniffing around the towering defender. With Bournemouth bringing in Diego Rico from Leganés, Mings has been pushed further down the pecking order at the Vitality Stadium, so maybe a loan move could be a good thing. Considering his most memorable Premier League moment was a clash with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, it's clear his run in the top flight hasn't quite gone as planned. Brighton, Tammy Abraham. The Israeli forward is another player who slipped down the pecking order at his club, with Brighton adding their attacking ranks over the summer with Florian Andone. Combine that with Jurgen Locadia arriving in January and last season's form of Glenn Murray, and it's unclear to say where Hamed fits into Chris Hughton's plans. Having scored 30 Championship goals in 73 appearances, the 31-year-old would be a great signing for a goal-shy second-tier outfit. Burnley, Nahki Wells. I said the other week that Burnley should look to sell him, and it nearly happened, with the striker almost joining Derby as part of the deal that saw Matej Vydra move to Turf Moor. But that didn't happen, so Wells is still surplus to requirements at Burnley, especially now the Czech striker has arrived. The Bermuda international has made zero impact at Burnley, so it's best for all parties if he finds himself a new club. Cardiff City, Lee Tomlin. The chunky playmaker spent the second half of last season on loan at Nottingham Forest, so while Cardiff were completing their journey to the top flight, Tomlin was languishing in mid-table, where in fairness he played pretty well. Tomlin has 6 Premier League appearances to his name with Bournemouth, and it's highly unlikely he'll add to that tally in Wales, so no doubt there'll be a queue of Championship clubs who are keen to snap at the player who is reportedly available on loan. Chelsea, Tammy Abraham. If I wanted to be controversial, I'd pick the Real Madrid linked Eden Hazard, but there's no way that deal is going to happen. Like, why would Chelsea let their best player leave when they have no chance of replacing him until January? So instead we're going to be sensible and pick Tammy Abraham, who needs another loan move to the Championship to continue his development, especially since a Premier League move didn't happen for the young forward. Abraham isn't going to get the minutes sitting behind Giroud and Morata in the pecking order, so the Championship will have to do, where Abraham scored 23 times for Bristol City a couple of seasons back. Aston Villa are reportedly interested, and they could really benefit from Abraham's quality up front. Crystal Palace, Jairo Riedewald. The Eagles tried to send him to Swansea as part of a swap deal with Jordan Ayew, but while the Ghanaian moved clubs, Riedewald stayed put and is still at Selhurst Park despite Roy Hodgson's best efforts to get rid of the Dutchman. His Palace career was as good as over as soon as Frank de Boer was sacked early on last season, so it seems best that he moves on, likely away from England considering he didn't want to drop down to the Championship with Swansea. Everton, Yannick Bolasie. With all the players Everton have signed this summer, it just means Yannick Bolasie is even further away from the Toffees' first team. The winger appears to have no future under Marco Silva and was linked with a permanent exit before the window closed, with Championship club Middlesbrough linked. Bolasie hasn't proven his worth at Everton, and a horrific injury made matters even worse, but he'd be a real coup for Borough or any other Championship team, who would need to find a way around his big wages if a loan move was to happen. If not, it could be a lonely few months waiting for the window to open again in January for Bolasie. Fulham, Rui Font. The former Arsenal youth player cost Fulham £8 million last summer from Braga, but the move didn't work out at all, with the Portuguese striker only managing 3 goals for the Cottagers. Fulham are reportedly willing to listen to offers for Font, having brought in Alexander Mitrovic and Luciano Vietto over the summer, further ruining Font his chances of playing in the Premier League, something he didn't manage in the early days of his career at Arsenal. If they could make their money back, it would be a good deal for Fulham, who spent big this summer on strengthening their squad. Huddersfield Town, Colin Quaner. If there's a word I use to describe Colin Quaner, it would be unorthodox. The wide man didn't look quite at home in the Premier League last season with Huddersfield, but he's still a top flight player as it stands, despite previous murmurs of a move to Championship side Preston. Could a loan move still happen? Possibly, but then again, Wagner might want to keep Quaner as another body in case of injuries. Huddersfield was a hard one to do for this video. Leicester City, Johan Benalouan. The Tunisian centre-half has barely played for the Foxes since arriving in 2015, despite costing €8 million. He's been back up ever since he arrived, making just 16 league appearances for the club, having failed to force his way into the first team under several managers. Apparently Bordeaux are now interested in the 31-year-old, which could be the ideal solution for all parties, as the defender enters the final year of his Leicester contract. Liverpool, Simon Mignolet. The Liverpool goalkeeping conundrum seems to have been solved with the arrival of Alisson from Roma, which was bad news for Loris Karius, but even worse news for Simon Mignolet, who can't even get on the bench nowadays. The Belgian is still a decent goalkeeper, but his time at Liverpool needs to come to an end for the good of his career, and the stopper has been linked with a move to Serie A side Napoli, where hopefully Mignolet can kickstart his career once again. If not, he'll be hoping Alisson cocks up just as bad as Karius did, and then Klopp might have to give the former Sunderland man another cracking goal. Manchester City, Jason Denayer. To be fair, I forgot that Jason Denayer was still a Manchester City player, which speaks volumes about his time at the Etihad. Man City have a few players they'll probably try and move on by the end of August, and I was going to include Elki Mangala here, but a knee injury might stop that happening, so instead we've gone with Denayer, who has been linked with the return to Celtic, where the youngster massively impressed, winning a domestic double, the Scotland Young Player of the Year award, and a place in the Scotland Team of the Year. He might not be cut out for Guardiola's Man City, but it'd be a welcome signing at Parkhead. Manchester United, Matteo Darmian. Come on, the Italian is terrible, like how on earth is he still a Manchester United player? I said the other week that he was one player that the Red Devils needed to sell, and I stand by it, despite Darmian starting the first game of the season against Leicester, but I imagine that wouldn't have happened if Antonio Valencia or Diego Dalot had been fit. Darmian reportedly wants to leave Old Trafford and return to Italy, with Juventus, Napoli and Inter Milan all keen on the defender. Newcastle United, Henri Saivet. I just know as soon as I publish this the deal is going to be confirmed, as Henri Saivet's latest departure from Newcastle is imminent, with a return to Turkey looming for the midfielder. The Football Manager wonder kid has been a massive flop in the Premier League, a tough pill to swallow for video game fans, but at least the Toon Army will always be able to remember that free kick Saivet scored against West Ham last season, his one and only good moment in black and white. Southampton, Sam Gallagher. In 2014, Sam Gallagher scored his first Premier League goal for Southampton, and looked like he was the next academy product to break into the first team. 4 years on, and Gallagher hasn't scored another league goal for the Saints, and has been out on loan at MK Dons, Blackburn Rovers and Birmingham City. At 22 years old, Gallagher is likely to go out on loan once again, with Championship clubs such as Blackburn keen on the forward, who sadly isn't cut out for Premier League football. Tottenham, Vincent Janssen. The Dutch striker's Tottenham career has been a nightmare, with penalties the only saving grace for the former AZ Alkmaar man. Things have got worse this summer for Janssen, being stripped of the number 9 shirt at Tottenham, which is a pretty good indication that he won't be in North London come the end of August. Will any team take a punt on a player who only has one prolific season in top flight football? It's hard to see why any team would find a move for Janssen appealing. Watford, Stefano OKAKA. It's another player who we said Watford should try and sell this summer, and the Hornets might do just that, with interest coming from Spain in the Italian striker, who has had zero impact at Vicarage Road. Real Valladolid are reportedly interested in OKAKA, who scored just once last season and didn't feature on the opening weekend during Watford's 2-0 win over Brighton. West Ham, Reece Oxford. Having made his debut at 16, the past few years have been curious for Reece Oxford, who looked like the future of English football in his first league game against Arsenal. However, it was something of a false dawn for Oxford, who has made 7 more Premier League appearances since then, and looks like a player whose future lies in Germany. The youngster has had loan spells at Borussia Mönchengladbach, and once again there are Bundesliga clubs interested in signing Oxford on loan. So many young Brits are moving to Germany, so why wouldn't Reece Oxford want to continue his development there? The beer's great. And finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Danny Batth. With the number of arrivals at Wolves, there has to be some casualties too, and one of those could possibly be Danny Batth, who we suggested Wolves should sell. With the window now closed, they likely won't be able to do that now, but they could loan him to the Championship where he'd look far more comfortable. The club captain wasn't even on the bench for the season opener against Everton, which says a lot about his position in Nuno's squad, so could a move back to the Championship on loan be in the offing? So that's one player each Premier League club could still lose this summer. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below on who you think might leave and where they could go. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.